Hi everyone, it's Rabbi David here. Welcome to my virtual Seder. I'm going to try and go through some of the bits of the Seder and maybe give you one or two ideas or just helpful hints at what we do and why we do it. What a tall order. So look, we start with the Seder. It's a good idea to actually read the Seder itself. I'm going to use the Chief Rabbi Sachs as he was Haggadah, which I think is great and full of good stuff. And when we lay out our table, we put a map on the table, which we've drawn. Elisheva did it actually with Egypt and Israel. And we follow little Playmobil people through the desert, through the Red Sea and towards Israel, or the land of Israel, or land of Canaan as it was called. And we have a bit of fun with that. And we have loads of questions and quizzes and stuff. And we sing the Seder. Here's the tune we use. Ka dejur chatz, kar pas yachatz, magid rochza, motzi matza, maror korech, shulchan orech, safun barech, halel nirtza. That's the tune we use. We love it. We sing it probably a few times really, before we then come to Kiddush. Now Kadesh is also Kiddush, but it's also one of the 4 cups, because the Torah has 4 words for God taking the Jewish people out of Egypt. God says to Moses, I will take the Jewish people out, I will save them, I will redeem them, I will take them to me as a people. For those 4 words, which are a journey from the slavery itself, the actual persecution, to the covenant with God at Sinai, we drink throughout the evening 4 cups. And the first one is Kiddush. So we take the cup in our right hand, if you want to do it really, really good. In your right hand, everyone stands, or sit if it's your custom, and you drink after Kiddush, after saying Kiddush, and lean to the left. Leaning to the left because of freedom. There is actually a Talmudic saying that the reason we lean to the left and not the right is because we may well choke if we lean to the right. I'll leave it to the doctors among you to think of whether that's real. But that's actually what the Talmud says. And hey, we've just stuck with the custom of leaning to the left. So we've said Kaddish, we've leaned to the left. Now we wash our hands. Usually it's the officiant or the host who leads the Seder, but you can all wash your hands too, just like you would wash for bread, but without a blessing. In temple times, they had a concept called ritual impurity or tumah. If someone touched a dead body or dead animal or got near them, they would become impure. And if they then ate food that was covered in liquid, they'd give the impurity to the food. How would you stop giving over the impurity? Wash your hands. And that's what we do now on Pesach, almost to symbolize this memory that we are trying to create of the temple time. So we wash our hands, and then we eat the karpas. We take a little bit of the karpas and say the blessing, which you can see on page 8 if you have the Siddur, the Haggadah of the Chief Rabbi Sachs. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, borei pri ha'adama. And we dip it in salt water. We don't lean for this one. And the karpas is fascinating because it almost symbolizes the hyssop that was used by the Jews in Egypt to daub the doors of their houses. That was the act of will they showed that they wanted to be redeemed. And that's one of the symbolisms. Because you know what? You could use really, let's say other than horseradish, any vegetable for karpas. Because what is it about? It's doing things differently. We want children, especially, to ask why. Mum and Dad, why are we doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? And the answer we will give them is because we were slaves and we were saved by God. In some ways, the core of the Haggadah is as simple as that. Now, yachatz, we split the middle matzah, firstly because we want part of a matzah. We're told that the matzah is the bread of the poor person, the bread of affliction. Now it's interesting, matzah has 2 faces. It's got the face of slavery, the bread of affliction, and the face of freedom, because it's the matzah that we ate because the bread didn't rise as we left. We begin in a sense with the bread of poverty, and we end with the bread of freedom. So we break it. Now what's interesting is the afikomen that we will eat at the end is symbolizing the Pesach lamb, because in temple times we would eat the lamb as a dessert at the end. And so we're going to eat the matzah at the end, the afikomen matzah, to symbolize that. So the afikomen is for later. The part left is because the poor person eats part of a loaf, part of a piece, not something entirely. That's the bread of affliction. So what we do then is we uncover the matzah. We're now going to start Magid, which is the central telling the story, or the Haggadah, the saying of the Haggadah. So we're going to start Magid, so we uncover the matzah because it is clearly the central prop of the Haggadah, of Pesach. And we say this is the bread of affliction. We actually will say in Aramaic, anyone who wants to come and eat, please do so. Anyone who's hungry, come and eat. And in some ways it's emotional this year and sad that we can't do that for many people who will be alone and who won't be able to come to our Seder. It's not an easy year this year. We're now going to fill the second cup, which we will then have throughout the telling of the Haggadah. And we'll say, of course, the Manishtana, the 4 questions. Some say it's actually one question with different aspects to it. Have a think about that when you do the Manishtana. We'll uncover the matzahs for Avadim Ayinu, which is we were slaves and then God freed us. Again, that's the model for Pesach night. We were slaves and then we focus on our freedom. So make sure for Avadim Ayinu that you uncover the matzah. And then you're going to say through the next few paragraphs, look at them in English. Please do read them, share it around so that you look and understand and discuss, if you can, what exactly it is you're reading. Don't be afraid to do that. And you're going to go all the way through with the matzah uncovered till Vehisha Amda, which I've got on page 22. Now what we do is we at this point lift the second cup. It will be full, and we're going to drink to God who saves us in every generation from travail and suffering and persecution. That even though in every generation there are those who stand against us, God is and will be there for us. We drink to God, so to speak, when we lift our cup. But just as when we say Kiddush on Shabbat night, Friday night, we cover the matzah, cover the challah, so here we cover the matzah while we lift our cup. After that, we put the cup down. Right, I've got my Kiddush cup here. We'll put it down. And then we again will uncover the matzah. And now we're going to say, really, the middle of the Haggadah, where we take a few verses and we look at how they understand the path of the Jewish people down to Egypt, their request to be saved, their prayer to God, and God answering their prayers. Now, you might have other ways that you can also tell the story. You might create a little scene, a skit, a play, a rap, add them in, put them in, and have some fun relating to the story of the Exodus. And we'll say all the way through to the plagues. And when you get to the plagues, there are 3 moments here where we drop drips of wine. Dam ve'esh ve'timrot ashan, blood and fire and pillars of smoke, is in the book of Joel. Then the 10 plagues. And then Rabbi Yehuda asked us to remember them in a mnemonic. In other words, the first letters of each of the plagues spell 3 words, Datsach, Adash, and Be'achav. I've always used them to remember the plagues in 3 different groups of plagues. And that we also drop. And there's something, again, really important we know here, that even although the Egyptians were punished, so to speak, for their persecution of our people, we still feel a sense of sympathy because they are the creation of God nevertheless. And that's, I think, really an important message. Now I'm going to move to page 44 in mine, which is Rabban Gamliel. Because not only do we eat maror and eat matzah, we're meant to also explain the reasoning behind them, as well as the Pesach. These are the 3 main things, the Pesach lamb, the matzah, and the maror, because they may well have been eaten together. And so we will take each of them and explain them. Now, with the Pesach lamb comes, we don't lift the shank bone, which is the zroa on our Pesach plate, our Seder plate. We just point to it. There is this idea and custom that since we don't have offerings anymore, we don't want to lift it as if to say it's an offering. We just point to it. We're very worried about that. So just point to the zroa, point to the shank bone. But we lift the matzah when we talk about the matzah, and we lift the maror when we talk about the maror. So we move on in Magid, still with our full cup. We cover the matzah again after maror, and we now raise the cup of wine. Again, just like Friday night, you cover the challah when you drink Kiddush. So here, we're about to drink the cup of wine, so we cover the matzah. And now what we're going to do is say the first part of Hallel. Hallel is very rarely, if not ever, said at night. It's always said in the morning, in shul. Here, it's said at the Seder at night, because Hallel isn't just about a festival. Hallel also is being said when a miracle, to commemorate a miracle. So we say Hallel on Yom Ha'atzmaut to commemorate the miracle of the birth of Israel, the state of Israel. So here we're saying Hallel to commemorate and remember the miracle of the redemption of the Jews from Egypt that happened and began on the night of the 15th of Nisan, on first night Pesach. So we say the first part of Hallel. We say another bracha, again with our cup raised, a blessing of thanksgiving and song, and then we drink the second cup. And while we do that, we lean to the left. So we've done 2 of the 4 cups. We've said the Haggadah, and we've said the first part of Hallel as part of the Haggadah. We then wash our hands for matzah, and now we're going to say 2 blessings. Usually with challah, we just say Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. This time, the eating of the matzah also doubles up as a mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah to eat challah on a Friday night. It's something that we do. It's an important law and custom, and it's a custom to have 2 challah. But there's no mitzvah in the Torah. That's just what we do. There's a mitzvah to eat matzah, and so we say 2 blessings. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, because we're eating bread, matzah in this case. Al achilat matzah, because we're doing the mitzvah of matzah. Now, follow me here, because there are 2 things we need to do. Firstly, when we say the bracha motzi, as we would say on Friday night or Yom Tov night, we need to hold together all 3 of the matzahs, the 2 complete ones and the partial one in the middle. That's because on Friday night or Yom Tov night, we'd have 2 complete challah. So we need those 2 complete matzahs to be here. But when we then say al achilat matzah, we drop away the bottom and only hold the top one and the partial one. Because remember, matzah, the mitzvah, is not meant to be said on 2 complete loaves or pieces, but a partial one. So for the first bracha, we hold all 3. For the second, just the top 2. And then, of course, we give matzah to everyone to eat, and do supplement the matzah so that you have a really good amount of matzah for that mitzvah. You can have more matzah on the table and supplement what people eat. And that's the matzah. Now with maror, everyone takes either the bitter herb they want. They can have lettuce or horseradish, whichever one you prefer. Some people have to have the horseradish, of course, have that reaction to it. And this is the point where you dip in or take some of the charoset. Remember, the maror is the mitzvah here, not the charoset, so don't take too much yet. There'll be plenty of time to have charoset. Of course, then you say the bracha, and you don't lean. Whereas you do lean when you eat the matzah, you don't lean for maror. Matzah does also represent freedom. And the way of free people is to lean. Whereas maror, of course, is the bitterness of the slavery. And we don't, of course, lean because we're talking about slavery at that point and not freedom. Now, what was done in the temple? Did we eat matzah separately, the maror and the Pesach offering? Or did we eat them all together? So the first opinion is we ate them separately. And actually, that's what we've done. We've ate the matzah and the maror separately. But Hillel believed they would all be eaten together with the Pesach offering. And so we like to do, according to everyone, we love to do that in Judaism. So we have done the opinion that says eat them separately, matzah separately, blessing, maror. Now we're going to eat them all together, the Hillel sandwich, because his opinion is that's what was done. That's what he believed should be done. We should eat them as a sandwich together. We don't have the offering. We do have the matzah. We do have the maror. So we eat them together. And since we've already said blessings over matzah maror, we don't say a blessing anymore. We just say the paragraph about remembering the temple according to Hillel, and then we eat the korech. We eat the sandwich. Of course, we now move to our lovely, yummy meal at whatever time we've, of course, got to it. Safun, of course, is that the afikomen is hidden. And we eventually, of course, find the afikomen and we eat it, remembering that it is actually quite important. So even ideally, we should have a really decent amount of matzah, and it should be the last taste of food for the night. So I know in my Seder, in our Seder, we would be full already, but the matzah would be the last thing we eat. We wouldn't eat anything else after the matzah that night, so that in a sense, the taste of the offering, or the symbol of it that we have, the matzah, is the last thing that's in our mouth. And that's safun. Then, of course, we fill the third cup, fill up the third cup of our grape juice or wine, and then we bench over that cup. We bless over that cup. Just like at a wedding or a real celebration, people bless, do benching the grace afterwards over a cup of wine. What you do is the person who leads the benching, right, sing Shir HaMa'alot first, Shir HaMa'alot, right? And then whoever leads the benching holds up the cup while they lead the benching. And then at the end of the benching, in the Rabbi Sachs Haggadah is on page 66, the end of the benching, whoever leads the benching will say the blessed Borei Pri Hagafen. Everyone will drink their third cup, and they will, of course, lean to the left and drink. So we will have done 3 cups, the first for Kiddush, the second at the end of the Haggadah section, and the third for the end of benching. All right, so we finished the meal, we finished the benching, we fill up the 4th cup, but do you know that there were opinions that there is a 5th cup? There actually is an opinion that there was a 5th cup of wine. And it's interesting that if you remember, I said earlier about the 4 languages of redemption, the 4 words where God redeems. There's a 5th word where God says, I will bring you to Israel. And we don't really say much about bringing to Israel here, but the 5th cup could represent the eventual bringing of the Jewish nation to Israel. Should we drink a 5th cup or not? We don't know. In the Talmud, when we don't know an answer, the Talmud always says Elijah the prophet will eventually come and tell us the answer when he brings the Messiah. Now, we have no Elijah yet, we have no Messiah yet, but we call the cup Elijah's cup. We don't drink it, but we pour it, we leave it on the table, and we say Elijah will eventually come and tell us whether there's a need for a 5th cup or not. Quite a long time to leave a cup. But that's one of the reasons why it's been known and called Elijah's cup. We all stand with the 4th cup of wine filled now, and we say this really complicated verse, pour out your wrath on the nations that do not know you. A little bit of anger comes out now in the Seder, although in the Chief Rabbi Sachs Haggadah on page 70, there is a lovely, lovely manuscript from Worms, version of 1521, which starts, pour out your love on the nations who have known you. And I always say that as well. So the door is closed, because of course we open the door for Elijah, and then we finish the Hallel. And that's what we do. We finish the Hallel, which is a longer Hallel than usual. We get to the end of Hallel. I'm on page 84 in this Haggadah. And we take the cup, and we lean to the left, and we drink the 4th cup. And that leaves us, of course, with Nirtza. Now, Nirtza means it has been accepted. The idea that we hope that our Haggadah, our reading, our mitzvah, has been accepted by God on this night, just as we hoped he would accept the offering of the Pesach offering. Of course, there are always the songs we love, Adir Hu, Echad Mi Yodea, which is a great one, of course. It's almost a trivia quiz on what do each of these numbers represent. I love Chad Gadya because there is an idea that Chad Gadya represents our history. And that each of these eatings or hittings or moving to the next stage represents a step in our history from the sale, actually, of Joseph, so till the Jews coming down to Egypt. And the cat, for instance, is meant to represent the jealousy of the brothers. And once they sold them down to Egypt, we ended up in Egypt. The dog represents almost the bite of the Egyptians. And this goes on. The stick is the stick of Moses, which ended up in the temple because the Jewish people redeemed. They built Israel. Eventually they were exiled, but they, before that, built a temple. And the stick of Moses was in it. And the fire destroyed the temple. And it keeps going down. The water is the water of the Torah, the development of Torah, till eventually, at the very bottom, the angel of death comes, and God kills the angel of death and brings the Messiah. So God almost takes away bad from the world and brings a messianic period of good, a period where people are decent and good, upstanding and just. And that is a sort of very small insight into what the Vilna Gaon, right, from Vilnius, the famous 18th century, late 18th century Gaon of Vilna, what he does to Haggadah is make it into a historic poem which takes us all the way to the Messianic era. And that the hope of our Seders and our Pesachs is that they will take us day after day, or year after year, I should say, to a period of good, where all will be good and nation will not lift up sword unto nation. So that's some stuff about the Haggadah, and I really hope you have a good Seder. I hope you're able to discuss, ask each other, come up with questions, learn together, smile together, have joy together, and that we also think about those people who will be finding it difficult this Pesach. We think about people who will be alone. We'll be in touch with people before, after Pesach to find out how they are, of course. I'm sure you'll all be in touch with your family and relatives. What I'm going to be doing is right before Pesach, when we're all dressed up for Pesach, our family is going to contact our parents on Skype or Zoom or WhatsApp, sing a number of the Pesach songs, do some of the Seder with them, so that we could have had a Pesach experience that we won't be able to have on Pesach night. So love to you all, and I do hope this has helped give you some sort of ideas, reflections, and hints and tips for the Seder. You know my emails, muswellhillrabbi@gmail.com. You can always be in touch and ask me a question. Let's drink a l'chaim to this Pesach and please God to health for our world.